Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to our wrap-up sessions on research-based assessment instruments. So here's what we're going to do today. I'm going to start with a quick recap of what we did over this past year, and then Brian is going to make a presentation of the work that has been going on at Santa Fe about these instruments, and then we'll open up the floor for questions and discussions. And then at the end of the session, we'll have a brief evaluation that we would like you to complete because that helps us a lot with assessing how things go and what else we could do in the future. So, as you probably know now, this past year we had a plan which was to offer presentations, discussions on research validated physics assessments. And the goal was essentially to help TYC faculty to learn about these tools, to improve teaching, assess students, and also to contribute to the broader knowledge about TYC physics students, which is something that we feel sorely needed because we need to know more about what's going on in physics in two-year colleges. Okay, and so we were lucky and blessed to have the participation of many people who were willing to act as facilitators for us. So I'd like here to thank many of those, all of those who actually came to our sessions and helped us organize them and present. In many cases, these were actually the originators of these assessment tools, so that was really helpful to have them there. And people got a chance to know more about the motivation for these assessment tools and how to precisely use them, and also know some of the limitations that are inherent to those assessments. And of course, we can organize, we can invite speakers, but if people don't show up, then of course the session would not be very helpful. So we should also thank all the people who were willing to join us on Friday afternoon and spend time with us and discuss all these things. The discussions were very valuable because it helped get a better sense of what was needed within the community. And I hope also for the future that we will take that input into new plans and new programs. Okay, and so over the year, we were able to do a number of things. So in the fall semester, we were able to provide five different sessions, starting with an introduction to what research-based instruments are, and then we went for the major ones, so FCI and CSAM, and so we had uh, extensive discussions about the history of these instruments, but also how to use them in a classroom, what they meant, and the practical details of how you would implement that in class. Then we also expanded into two other assessment tools here, the Minnesota Assessment on Problem Solving and the CDPA, the Concise Data Processing Assessment. So all of that happened in the fall, and then during the spring, we were able to add four more of those. So here we had an assessment on energy and momentum concepts, and then another classic, which was the CLAS, about the attitude of students in the classroom. We had a discussion about that. And then finally, we had one on DC circuits, and we had the creator of the assessment with us, Paul Engelhardt. And then we had last month one final session on the iStar, the scientific, let's see, I'm lost now in my acronyms, but scientific assessment of reasoning in labs, I believe, no, inquiry in scientific thinking, analytics, and reasoning. That was the proper name. Sorry about that. Anyway, so this is what happened over the year. I hope people benefited quite a bit from this, and we are currently working on a new program for the fall, so more is coming. Stay tuned, and hopefully we'll find this very useful in the future. So this is my brief speech about what we did over the past year, and now I'm going to turn that over to Brian, who teaches physics at Santa Fe College, and I'm going to let him introduce the topic for his presentation.
Thanks, Kareem. So I've been a presenter at a couple of the sessions earlier on in the year because we've been using the FCI and the CSEM and the CLAS at Santa Fe College. And so earlier I showed some of the correlations we had seen between FCI performance and CLAS scores, and also the correlation between CSEM and CLAS scores. So I didn't want to revisit specifically that again. So for a new angle this time, I wanted to show you a little bit about the overall project in which we're using these assessments. And so the idea is that the college has a 5-year quality enhancement plan. And for the physics department, what we're trying is some belongingness interventions. And so what I'm going to do is describe the belongingness intervention that we've been trying, and then I'm going to fold into the mix here. There is a survey that the college has been doing across departments at Santa Fe, which has a set of questions about belongingness. This isn't a national survey or anything. It hasn't been validated outside of Santa Fe College, but several departments here are using that set of questions. So I wanted to show you how some of the results on that belongingness survey we're using internally correlate with the other measures of performance, such as the FCI scores and the course grades as well. So I'll go ahead and start my screen share. And so the belongingness intervention that we're trying out to see if it has any effects with our students is based on the ecological belonging intervention of Binning 2020. And the idea is that you ask students what kinds of challenges they face at college and in physics classes. And then you have them do a reflection. A little bit of feedback there. So we're trying to find out whether students' sense of belonging changes as a result of this intervention, whether their performance changes as a result of the intervention. And I'm also looking here at whether performance and belonging are correlated. So there were a couple of times we tried this intervention, and the first time was in spring of 2025. And what we did was we looked at some of the common themes that students had expressed in the past about what they thought might be challenging. And we made a multiple choice questionnaire with some of the ideas that students had come up with. And we administered this to several of our sections in physics. The surprising thing we found out was that the students didn't really identify with many of these challenges, even though it had been grown out of comments we had heard from students before. And because we thought, the students didn't seem to identify with having many of these challenges, that maybe we needed to change the format of the questionnaire, because it didn't seem to be too effective in provoking any thoughts from students about what they were having problems with. So then in fall of, that should be fall of 25, we changed it to a free-form poll instead of being a multiple choice poll, and we administered it through Mentimeter. So the prompt was at the top, and the students could type whatever they wanted for responses about what challenges they faced coming into a physics class in college. And I've gone and paraphrased some of the ideas that students had in the classes. So you can see they had some concerns about finances, a lot of concerns about time management, and you also get some surprising things when you let them write their own responses. Like there were some students who wrote, oh yeah, the bus system is a problem for me. And there were some other students who saw that and said, oh yeah, the bus system is a problem for me. So those are things that we wouldn't have even thought of putting on the multiple choice questionnaire. So then after they write about their challenges, then they get in groups and they do a reflection on what they saw as trends in the class results. And so they all went up to the whiteboard, and in their group they wrote about some of the things they saw in trends in the class results. And they also looked at what some students had written for advice to future students. They did that. They wrote some advice in a previous term, and that advice was passed on, and students wrote a reflection about that. So that was the intervention, and then of course we did some surveys, including the college's internal sense of belonging survey, the force concept inventory for Physics 1, the CSEM for Physics 2, and also we've got the course grades to look at. We've got way more statistics on Physics 1 students, so I'm only showing the Physics 1 results here. These are the questions that were asked on the college's internal sense of belonging survey. So I feel like I belong in this class, the instructor values me as an individual, a question about anxiety, asking for help, whether they're comfortable participating, whether they think they have the support they need to succeed, and whether they're confident about their success in the class. And they just rated those 7 questions on a scale of strongly agree to strongly disagree. So I went and I looked at the post scores for all of those 7 belonging questions and whether they correlated with the FCI scores and whether they correlated with the course grade. These are just the plots for the first question on belongingness. That was the one on I feel like I belong in this class. So on the vertical here is how much the students agreed with that statement, 5 being that the students strongly agreed, and 1 being that the students strongly disagreed with that statement. And then on the horizontal axis is the score. So on the left there's the FCI scores at the end of the class, and over on the right is the course grade, 1 being a D and 4 being an A. So the interesting thing about this is when I looked at the 7 questions about belongingness, it seemed like they didn't correlate very well with the FCI score, but they did correlate fairly well with the course grade. If you do a linear regression in Excel, then you get a way smaller p-value for the correlation with course grade than the correlation with the FCI score, and the R-squared values for the linear regression on the course grade are higher as well. So it seems like the belongingness isn't so strongly correlated with the FCI score, but it is more strongly correlated with the course grade for a sample of Physics 1 students. I also looked at how much students increased in their agreement with the statement of I feel like I belong in this class. So this is how much did their agreement increase at the end of the term compared to taking the survey at the beginning of the term. So over here in spring of 2025, that's with that intervention with the multiple choice poll where we felt that students weren't really identifying with the challenges presented. And their agreement with the statement of I feel like I belong in this class, their agreement didn't increase very much. But then in the fall of 2025, with the multiple choice intervention replaced by the free-form intervention questionnaire, their agreement with the statement of I belong, it increased more. One point being a change from, say, agree to strongly agree, or a change from neutral to agree would be 1 point's worth of change on the scale. Of course, the fall cohort is a different set of students than the spring cohort, so there are other things that could be changing this besides just that we changed the intervention. But the fall increase in belongingness does seem to be more than the spring increase in belongingness was. And so then we looked at, so the belongingness seemed to increase. For which reason, we can't be sure, but the belongingness seems to have increased in fall of 2025. Did that have any effect on scores? Well, you can probably guess that since we didn't find much of a correlation between the belongingness score and the FCI score, that this might not have impacted the FCI score very much. And that is true. Over here on the green plot on the right, there's the FCI normalized gains in spring of 25 over all of our Physics 1 sections. So that includes Physics 1 algebra-based, Physics 1 algebra and trig, and Physics 1 calculus all lumped into one. And so the normalized gain in the spring of 25 was basically the same as the normalized gain in the fall of 25. But if you look at the course grades, where we did see a correlation between the belongingness score and the course grade did seem to improve between spring of 25 and fall of 25. So that seems to be what you would expect since belongingness increased and since belongingness seems like it's correlated with the course grade. So I think what I'll do is I'll pause there and see if there are any thoughts. So I wondered whether anybody else out there had tried looking at belongingness at their institutions and whether anybody had found any good sets of survey questions on that.
No, that's not a very common theme.
Mm-hmm. Now, the funny thing about the belongingness and how it seemed not to have much of a correlation with the FCI scores, but did have a stronger correlation with the course grades. The course grades, of course, incorporate much more than just a test grade. They incorporate lab grades, and so if students feel like they belong, and that is increasing their attendance and it's increasing their participation, that could be folding into better lab grades, better group work grades, and those are all reflected in the course grade, but they're not so much reflected in the FCI score. Mm-hmm. So that could be one reason why there's this difference.
And Brian, you're putting all the Physics 1 courses together here. Are there any differences in the trends between, let's say, the algebra-based and the calc-based courses?
Yeah, there are definitely differences between the algebra-based and the calculus-based. The algebra-based, they come in with a lower preparation level, so we've seen that they are not in a position to make as high a normalized gain on the FCI as the calculus-based ones are. So the calculus-based classes are definitely having a higher normalized gain here, and that's being averaged out with the algebra-based ones.
So, Brian, how about the belongingness? How is that affected between the algebra-based and the cal-based?
The belongingness actually is growing a lot more between pre and post measurement in the algebra-based. The person who's teaching the algebra-based sections is doing a modeling-based approach, and he really believes in coaching the students every single class to believe they can do better. And so the belongingness scores are definitely increasing more in that class than in the calculus-based classes. And I don't have enough statistics from the algebra-based classes, but there's a hint that if you look at only the algebra-based classes, because the belongingness is increasing quite a lot more, it might have a small effect on the FCI, but I don't have enough statistics to be sure of that yet. It might be like a 1 or 2 point difference.
And so, do you see on the belongingness the level that it starts in the algebra-based class? Well, maybe not substantially, but less than it is in the calculus-based class.
Oh, sorry, say that again.
That the belongingness level when they first start the class, is it significantly different in the algebra-based class than it is the calculus-based class?
I don't know about that offhand on the pre-score comparison. I need to go back and look at that.
I also wonder about the difference between first and second semester, because presumably when they take the second semester, they've already taken some physics courses. They've already very often they're taking the same instructor or something that someone they know. Do you think that has any effect?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
However, there is something interesting about the CLAS scores at Santa Fe College, which aren't tracking exactly the same thing as belongingness, but are about attitudes. So at Santa Fe, the Physics 1 classes see an increased CLAS score by the end of the Physics 1 class. However, the Physics 2 class usually sees a small decrease.
Do you know if that's universal or is that a common trend that the sense of the C last goes down with second semester?
Yeah, it's funny. So, of course, just to back up here and remind everybody, the CLAS generally is expected to go down, whether it's Physics 1 or Physics 2. Uh, so, it's a, a surprise that it's actually going up for Physics 1 just a little bit. For Physics 2, I did look at each instructor individually for their CLAS scores for Physics 2, and it seems like it's pretty much across the board that Physics 2 causes the CLAS to go down.
And is it consistent with what's been published as far as, because I remember reading about the sea loss dropping in almost every course, but are we on the same scale, or is there any difference there?
The the average decrease at Santa Fe for the CLAS in Physics 2 is less decrease than the national average. So we're doing better, but we didn't completely stem the tide.
Okay. So we still have work to do then, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the one funny thing about FCI and belongingness correlations, there is one measure where there is a correlation between the belongingness questions and the FCI score. It's the belongingness question about I have anxiety about my prior skills adequately preparing me to succeed in this class. And the less anxiety people had on that question, the higher they scored on the FCI. And that was a statistically significant correlation, even though most of the other questions showed no correlation.
Mhm.
So that could be a possible target for increasing the FCI score, to have some sort of intervention that would target that prior skills anxiety.
Hmm.
Did I miss this? How many students are we looking at in the spring versus fall?
Yeah, these statistics are based on 80 students in the spring and 140 students in the fall. And I have more students, but these are only the ones who gave IRB consent for all of their data to be used in the project.
All right. Okay, so has anyone else done recently anything with CLAS, FCI, or CSEM, or something similar that it would be interesting in sharing, or that would be sort of comparison in terms of scope of projects? Or do you know if this thing we're doing with the belongingness, are there counterparts to this on elsewhere? I haven't searched the literature on this, but is this something that some people are working on or trying to systematize?
I haven't done a really deep search on that, but I'm not aware of anything myself.
Hmm. Yeah. That'd be interesting to learn more about that and see anything's done there. Because it, I'm wondering if it's not something that the sort of area of research that might be worth pursuing that others have not necessarily investigated. I have to
Yeah,
do a bit more research whether anybody in PER has kind of shown any interest for this sort of thing.
yeah, I think the only thing I read about was in the original paper by Binning, since their intervention was based on belongingness, and then they uh, showed what it did to their course grades.
And what field were they in? Was it, no, it was not physics, was it?
I think it was biology or something.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, is anyone here familiar with other studies relating to belongingness?
No, not. Okay. So maybe we're kind of innovating here and we need to push forward and try to do something with that, especially if we can establish any kind of correlation with things like FCI or CSAM or any of that. Even if it's weak, might be of interest to people who are working on this sort of thing.
Hmm. Yeah, so at Santa Fe, we've decided to uh, do the same intervention again this fall, and we also just finished this spring a control term where we did nothing. So
Mhm.
we're going to keep gathering statistics on this, and eventually maybe we'll have enough students from the algebra-based one, which is seeing the high increases in belongingness, to see if that's teasing out anything with the FCI scores.
Mhm. All right. Um, Anything anyone would like to add to this discussion? Or okay, so yeah, let's see what Chris has put a comment there. It's keen word that IL is helping, but without evidence. Okay, so let's see what the paper. Okay.
Yeah, so the paper is called When Learning Physics Mirrors Doing Physics
I see. Yeah.
in Physics Today. And She says that she makes the claim that it increases belongingness, but
Okay. So maybe it'd be worth reaching out to her at some point and maybe uh, see whether we can get something out of what she's been doing and compare notes, maybe. I don't know. At least for us, anyway, it would be helpful to have some outside perspective on what we're doing as well. All right. Okay. And let me see.
do you have other data, Brian, to share by any chance? I'm curious about the other questions on your belongingness.
Yeah, so I paused there to see if we had a little discussion to engage in, but yes, I do have here the other 7 questions. I've got this in a quick format where it's an animation and the 7 graphs just all scroll past.
Oh,
And I have them individually too. So maybe what I'll start with is just the animation where they scroll past and see if it's smooth enough on Zoom to see
okay.
how these are going. So I'll share again.
Yeah. Mhm.
Let's see. Did I get the right window? I think I have the wrong window. Try that again. Mm, okay, there. I think it's highlighted in green now. Okay. So this is the animation where it scrolls through all 7 belongingness questions to see if there's a correlation with the FCI score at the end of the class along the horizontal. So as it scrolls through here, what you'll probably notice is that most of the best fit linear regression lines are almost flat. So here goes the animation, and afterwards you'll be able to tell me whether it's too choppy to see anything. There's the one on anxiety where there is a correlation.
Mhm.
Ask for help, no correlation. Comfort participating, no correlation. Have the resources to succeed, no correlation. Have confidence, not much. Basically, no correlation there.
Okay.
Uh, did that work? Could you see that as
Yeah.
it scrolled through?
Yeah.
Okay,
It was okay, man.
great. So I'll do the next one then.
Okay.
So this one is the correlation between all 7 belongingness questions and the course grade. And you'll see for most of these, there is a correlation with the course grade. Really strong correlation with anxiety.
Mhm.
And quite a strong correlation on their confidence in their ability to succeed.
Mhm.
And then this last one is how much did their agreement with the belongingness question increase in spring of 25, and how much did their agreement with the belongingness question increase in fall of 25? So pretty strong effect on I belong, a moderate effect on values me. The anxiety didn't change much. Some effect on I can ask for help, some effect on I'm comfortable participating, some effect on I have the resources to succeed, and some effect on their confidence. Yeah, so there you go, all 7 questions.
Now, you said those questions are used across the college, right?
They are used across the college. Any college department that chose to target sense of belonging for the 5-year quality enhancement plan
Mhm.
was asked to use these questions.
So do we have data from the other departments?
I haven't asked the plan director yet, but he should have the data from all the other departments.
It'd be interesting because I mean, typically physics is not really the highest, the most um, what's appealing, I guess, of department to anxious students. But
Yeah.
do you know who else has done it?
No, I don't know for sure which departments are doing sense of belonging. I think the English department did sense of belonging, but I think the math department did something else.
Oh, too bad. It would have been nice to compare it to math.
Yeah, a lot of the departments have decided to do transparent assignments as the theme instead of sense of belonging. But yeah, I think that at Santa Fe, the physics department is the farthest along on seeing whether the belongingness is correlated with the course grade. As far as I've seen, I haven't seen any results from any of the other departments on checking a correlation between belongingness and course grade. So maybe that's something that the quality enhancement plan director could do since he has access to everybody's belongingness data.
Now, another element of the plan that we had with the PER group in optics was to contribute to the data banks on TYC students. So all of these data is eventually going to go to Fisport. Is that the plan?
Yeah, it's all going into the Fisport Data Explorer. Mhm.
Would be useful for others who are doing the same thing in other colleges. Yeah. Because that's another thing we've been trying to encourage people to do is to actually collect data and share data in something like the BizBoard because it makes it accessible to all of us and helps a lot with getting a better sense of what's going on in TYCs. So I'm hoping that all the people who've attended our sessions will do something in that order. Hoping that in future there'll be a lot more about TYC students in physics.
Well, maybe you said this already, but um, how many instructors were involved for each physics one course, the algebra based and the calculus based?
Yeah, let me try to think here about the total number of instructors. It's going to be, I think I've got 3 adjuncts in here, and I've
Mhm.
got 6 full-time instructors in here.
Well, which level, algebra based and calculus based? I mean, you had 80 students in the calculus based. Was it one full-time instructor or what?
This is, on average, approximately 10 students per instructor who had matched data and gave IRB consent to have their data used for the project. Our total section sizes at Santa Fe are 20 students per section.
Hooray!
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I love it. But in terms of how many sections of each type are rolled in with that 80 students, it's going to be 2 sections of algebra and about 3 sections, 2 or 3 sections of algebra with trig, and then the rest of the sections, like about 5 sections of calculus, I think.
Mhm. Do you have any evidence or any gut feeling of whether the results might depend partly on the instructor and the pedagogy that they use? You mentioned a modeling instructor.
Yeah.
Say
So
more.
I do have the sense there that the instructor who's using modeling may be getting more increase in belongingness. Um, Aside from that, it wasn't obvious, although there are low statistics here. But yeah, with the statistics I have so far, it's not obvious that there's any significant difference between any of the other instructors.
Mhm. What about the FCI gain? You quoted that about zero point 0.2, and
Yeah,
did that depend much on instructor? Did the modeling instructor get higher FCI gain? Because we usually
that's
get
the
zero point
funny thing.
0.4.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. So the modeling instructor is doing the least prepared class, the algebra-based class. So his gains are actually less.
I mean, we've got a ton of data showing that even high school teachers who are very weak in physics, they can get really high FCI gains if they use modeling instruction thoroughly, completely. It's really amazing. It's really amazing, the difference. And oh, I know one more thing I wanted to say. We did a study with a Barrett Honors College undergraduate senior at ASU a few years ago. We polled all of the physics teachers in the state, and we found we found that the teachers who use modeling instruction had higher enrollments in their physics class. Well, that indirectly that means a greater sense of belonging indirectly, but that we've got statistics and everything on that. There were like I think 175 teachers that we polled, and the general sense was that if you use modeling instruction, your physics enrollment's going to go up in high school, and this would be for the regular and honors algebra based.
Hmm. Yeah, I was actually looking at the section enrollments for the fall, and I saw that the instructor there's a algebra and trig section instructor who does modeling as well, and I saw that that section is filling faster than the other sections.
Mm. I know the kids really like the labs. I've got I was reading yesterday some data, actual data from many years ago of the students said, well, yes, we really like these labs, these modeling labs, you know. So
Hmm.
that's an indicator.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really funny with the normalized gains on the algebra basis the calculus ones, even though the algebra based one is a modeling approach. Um, it it's coming in with a normalized gain of close to zero actually, and the calculus based ones are coming in with a normalized gain of about 0.35 to 4, 0.35 to zero point 0.4.
Mm. Well, there's work to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's another aspect we haven't really discussed completely is also the pedagogy used in different classes. So that's something that maybe needed at some point as a department, I think. Yeah. Okay, I see Chris has been doing a lot of digging around and he's shared a lot of articles on in the chat. So
Oh,
if you want to take a look at them, and I don't think I have time to go and look at every one of those, but they seem to be heading in the same direction from belonging to success. Okay. Oh, that's directly what we're doing. Evaluating the influence of sense of belonging to physics on first year university students. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of discussion about sense of belonging, but I haven't seen a whole lot of like validated
Hmm.
instruments to measure, but I feel like there ought to be at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah. I wonder, is this something that that would be maybe more relevant in a TYC environment versus a four-year university environment? Is that potentially a reason why it hasn't received as much attention? I'm just shooting the breeze. I'm not sure. I'm just asking the question. Anybody here has a sense of how that could work? Hmm.
I feel like the PER community has had spent a lot of effort on looking at sense of belonging because everyone talks about how having
Mhm.
that sense that you belong in physics
Right.
is really important in terms of learning gains, but
Mhm.
I can't think of assessments
Yeah, that's the
for
thing.
that. I think it's more like qualitative, how, but I'm just
Yeah.
speaking off the cuff here.
Yeah. Mm.
Well, I think aren't we sort of planning in the future of optics some more discussion of qualitative assessment in the classroom? Maybe that's one of those themes that we ought to pick up and investigate more, maybe. As more TYC people, because I don't know that too many people do qualitative assessment in two-year colleges. So maybe that's something that's worth exploring.
Mm. How can I get the 7 questions, Brian? Can you email them to me? I think this is important. I want to
Sure.
post it on the modeling Google group page
Yeah,
and encourage teachers to ask these 7 questions.
yeah. I can email that, but maybe I can just paste it in the chat. Let me see if I can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll scroll to my slide where I had the 7 questions, highlight all of that, copy, and paste in the chat window. Paste. Okay,
There you
did
go.
that
Yeah.
work?
Yeah.
See it.
Yes, it did.
Mhm.
Great.
And I just
Do you
found
remember how
another.
these? Oops, sorry.
Oh, I just found another link I'm gonna put in the chat
Okay.
as well. So
I was going to ask, do you remember how we came to these questions? I mean, where did it come from?
These questions were designed by Bobby Hom, the
Oh,
QEP
okay.
director.
Okay.
So we'll have to ask him where he got them from, but I imagine that he trolled through a bunch of sources and decided that these were good questions.
Okay. All right. So is that one?
yeah, the last link I put in, it's
Yep.
Chandralekar Singh and one of her um, group members, but there is some discussion about how they asked sense of belonging questions. So that might be worth looking at to help
Hmm.
ground what you're looking at.
Yep. Well, I get the feeling that there is something there that we ought to work on at Santa Fe in terms of expanding and solidifying this whole set of data that we're collecting into something that could be useful and valuable for the community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
this data just isn't available, right, for
Yeah.
college
Mhm.
instructors. So having someone share their data it would be a start.
Yeah.
And I feel so privileged here that we managed to get 9 instructors to all do this for so many terms.
I hope you can publish it in the physics teacher. That'd be a good place.
Yeah, I think I'm guessing by the end of the 5 year, I think, Brian, you probably will have enough at that point to make a nice article that would be worth. We're not what, year 3 at this point, or two? Yeah, we've done.
Yeah, yeah, that would be good.
Mhm. Okay. All right. So, anything anyone wants to throw in here for a discussion or comment or idea about all of these topics?
Well, something that's remotely related, I suppose,
Hmm.
are the RTOP, Reform Teaching Observation Protocol,
Hmm.
which is are you are you familiar with that?
I,
Uh,
I remember reading the acronym, but I wouldn't be able to probably
yeah,
give you
yeah.
any detail.
It's indirectly a measure of well, I don't know what you say, interactive
Hmm.
engagement, which I associate with belonging. Helping people feel belong. Anyway, so I'm moving my office yesterday and moving a lot of research data because they're going to demolish the wing that 10 of us are on.
Oh,
And I come across 50 books, 50 large, heavy paperback books about the RTOP, how it was developed, the research data, how it was tested in physics, chemistry, and biology at ASU. And I'm thinking, do I throw them away? They're heavy. Or would anybody, I wonder, be wanting something like this? To me, it's fascinating to see all of the research data and all the research studies that were done to validate the RTOP. It's just measure of how good a guide on the side you are.
hmm.
Um, it's how, and that to me, that's belonging. If I were gonna I would take it if I were teaching in community college anymore. I taught at Scottsdale Community College for 10 years. But I would have been a much better teacher if I had availed myself of something like this, an instrument to measure my own effectiveness and ability and directly what I do in the classroom. Now there's a guy in Michigan, Drew is his first name. I forgot his last name. He modified that to make a self-assessment, which is good. And then Colleen McGowan adapted it to make a modeling based assessment. So basically we've got three instruments here that you can use as an instructor right in your classroom to see how well you're interacting with your students, basically. The better you interact with your students, the more they're going to feel like they belong.
Yeah.
It's relationships. And I'm wondering, surely there would be people who would appreciate having something like this.
Hmm.
Although you can only get it on the web by going to the Wayback Machine
Oh.
because
Hmm.
yeah, which is hard. I always forget how to do that. So anybody got any ideas on how I can? I mean, I got the original CD that's got the book on. I could post it on my website at modeling.asu.edu. Would that be worth my taking the time to do any of this stuff? Do you think? It's a tool. It's another tool. It's different because you're measuring yourself, your own self in the classroom. I don't know. Any comments? Any?
Well, it might be worth at least making an announcement on some of the mailing lists where people might be interested. You never know who.
Oh, that's true. AAPT trade wings
Yeah, we can also
communities.
do
Oh,
it
that's a thought.
on the TYC mailing list. We've
Yeah,
with the
I don't know. I'm not on that. I don't know how to get on that one.
oh, that one. That one is relatively easy. So I'll send you the link to it, and you
Okay.
can jump in. It's a Google group,
Oh,
and,
okay. Yeah, I'd like that because
and
I'm
then we
way
can
too
share
busy.
that. Yeah.
I almost feel like this could be a job for Compadre too, because if it's disappearing into the depths of the Wayback Machine and it's not currently accessible, then it's a job for archivists to make sure that it stays accessible.
Yeah, so how do I do that? What do I do to get on Compadre?
Reach out to Bruce Mason?
Mhm.
Pardon? Oh, Bruce Mason,
Yeah.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So he still does that. Good. Yeah. I've really been out of it. My husband died in January and he was so sick last year. It was grueling. It was grueling. It was a very hard year. And
Yeah.
now I'm now I'm finally coming back to normal. This is the first Zoom meeting I've been able to attend in about a year or a year and a half.
Well, thank you for choosing this one.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Thank you.
wonderful what you're doing,
Well,
Brian.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for the vote of confidence.
I love it.
thank you. So yeah, I'll email you about joining this group, and also if you have any description you want to share right by email, we can put it out in the on the mailing list, and maybe someone
Yeah,
will
okay,
pick that up.
good. That's good.
Okay.
Get going here.
Okay. Okay. So let me go back to I guess maybe at this point, since it's 3:57, we might want to share the survey. Let me actually do back here. I'll do a quick switch over to here. Okay, so here's a link to the survey. You can use the QR code if you'd like, or let me see if I can copy this. No, I shouldn't have that. I think, I'm assuming, well, maybe not the QR code. Maybe I'll grab this and share it in the chat. Oops, where's my chat? Why is it that I'm not seeing the chat anymore? Um, oh, there it is. Okay. So let me put it here. All right. So there's a link for the survey. If you can take a minute or so, it'd be very helpful. And I'm going to stop sharing this. All right. So anyone has any last words they'd like to share? And thank you for attending. Thank you for coming on this Friday afternoon. And as I said, we have more coming up. So we're working on plans for the fall. And so you should hear from us pretty soon. I guess in the middle of July or so, we should have most of our plans kind of finalized. And you will hear from Optics from multiple channels. We'll try to reach out to everyone.